Welcome back to our live town hall discussion. We're going to turn now to questions on the impact this coronavirus is having on people's jobs and careers.
And so joining us now is Christina Dietrich with HR Partners in Topeka and Alan Cobb with the Kansas Chamber. Thank you both so much for taking some time to be here with us tonight. So we're going to get right to it. Christina, we'll have you answer this one first. Let's talk about your rights. If you feel like it's just a little too risky to return to work, if you're uncomfortable with going back to the work environment because maybe you're in that high risk group for potentially getting coronavirus, talk about some options that are there for people.
That's a good question. The first thing that I would encourage is communication to your respective boss in regards to what your concerns are with your particular vulnerabilities. I do want to emphasize, though, if you do have a high-risk situation or you have a vulnerability, it doesn't always equate into a disability, and that doesn't always mean that you may not get an accommodation. So you need to know that in advance. But you need to communicate and be very specific with your supervision in regards to what you need in order to have a good transition back to the workplace. Honestly, sometimes an accommodation can be you're still working from home. So at the end of the day, you have those options, but you need to explore those options. But don't be surprised if they can't accommodate if you're not considered to have, it may create an undue hardship.
Yeah, and just being as honest and specific as possible there, I think, is
Yes,
important.
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Alan, I think that we'll have you answer this one. Obviously, thousands of jobs have been lost since the pandemic, but has it all really created any new jobs as well? We had a question from Roosevelt Boyd about asking cleaning playgrounds, buildings, shelter houses, parks, elevators, you name it, just about everything. People can start be doing that. Not only would this help keep everything clean, but it could also create temporary jobs. So is this something positive that could come out of all of this at the end? And are there any other jobs that you can think could be made from this pandemic, really?
Sure. Of course, there haven't been any net new jobs. Kansas has around 15% unemployment, which is not good at historical levels. But like a lot of crises or changes, this creates innovation. And so I think some of the things the questioner asked are certainly going to happen. More remote working technology has already been created. How many different meeting apps do we all have now that some of them didn't exist, or their technology was pretty suspect just a month or two ago? So yes, this is going to create innovation. Americans and Kansans always innovate. This is going to speed up some innovation. It's probably going to accelerate some businesses that were maybe in decline anyway. So yes, of course we're going to see some new. The question is, how long does it take to have that equate into it actually net new jobs and a growing economy? I think we're a ways away from that, but there are certainly some positives out there.
Okay, great. Now I want you both to weigh in here on this one. What are the challenges and the rights for people who just don't want to go back to work, even when their job has been offered back to them, if they've been furloughed, they've been getting unemployment? What happens if someone just says, no, I don't want to go back to work? Can they still qualify for that unemployment? Christine, I'll have you answer this one first.
Unfortunately, they would not qualify for unemployment at that point in time. It is up to the employer. If the employer who furloughed them says, we need you back, no matter what the reason is, there is a job refusal form that the employer fills out and sends back to the Kansas Department of Labor. And basically they don't qualify for unemployment insurance anymore. So that's the key to that.
Okay, great. Now, Alan, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Well, I couldn't hear what she said, so
yeah,
I apologize.
kind of went out a little bit there.
That's okay. Well, just the audio is not completely working here, but I want to offer my thanks and appreciation to KSNT for hosting this, and Dr. Pizzina for his public service during this crazy time. The question you posed is a challenge. At some point, should someone continue to receive unemployment benefits when the workplace safety has been covered and the job is there? Probably shouldn't. That was not what unemployment is intended for. And so I think some of these are the hard questions and hard conversations we're going to have. I certainly, as an employer at the Chamber, understand some uncomfortability of employees and can they work productively from home, and we're going to accommodate them. But ultimately, employers' interest is to keep their employees and customers safe. And if someone simply doesn't want to go back, even though the workplace is safe, that's a hard question. It's a hard question for ultimately businesses and the taxpayers who are paying for some of those benefits. So these are conversations we haven't had to have in a long, long time here in Kansas or the U.S., and we need to continue to address those.
Right, and a lot of questions, a lot of conversations being had for the first time for a lot of people as well. So we have one more question for you. What are the guidelines for if you test positive for coronavirus and don't want your coworkers to know that it's you specifically? You need to report it to your health department and your employer, but you don't want people blaming you or knowing that it's specifically you who has tested positive. So how do you protect your identity at work? Christina, we'll start with you again.
That's a good question. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with 8 positive COVID hits with the respective clients that we represent, and that has always been a major concern, is the protection of the individual and their identity. And I will say there is notification that basically comes from the employer to the rest of the staff, basically stating that there was a COVID hit, within that particular location, and it's not specific to an individual. So that should be kept confidential. But I don't always know, if other employers do that, but they should do that. And there is a notification and a memo that is on the CDC website that can assist in that particular case.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And both of you are going to be joining us here in just a little bit too, so don't go anywhere. We've got lots more to cover, as we keep saying.
Another 35 plus minutes of this. So still ahead in our discussions about reopening Kansas, we'll look at the impact the pandemic has had on local businesses and how it might be impacting the growth in the state. We'll be right back.